My father died not long after he deposited me on the doorstep of Trixie's with a note. I don't know what was written on that note because it was burned accidentally during the great paper shortage.
Drusilla Gobblestone has arrived at a new witching school some 2 weeks into the semester. Not everybody welcomes her, and because she's an orphan, she is sent to the nurse to be deloused. After a shower with strong delousing chemicals in a tiny bathroom off the nurse's office, never mind that she had no lice, Drusilla toured the school with Mooney. She liked the space that Mooney referred to as the BE classroom. It was awe-inspiring, as cave-like as the headmistress's office, but with bright copper vats cooking away on white wood stoves. "What is BE?" Drusilla asked. Mooney did not reply, and instead marched onwards. Drusilla also liked the enchantment room, where a python paraded unassumingly among the shelves, while students studied with their heads down. The next room, the necromancer study hall, was the most fun. A few older students had summoned up some pink slimy creatures, which cruised across the floor to the delight of all those who watched. Those Mooney put a stop to this plan. First, this magic, because everyone's noble races, is illegal. Drusilla's eyes traveled the length of the room. It was full of floor-to-ceiling paneling. A huge book encased in amethyst-colored leather stood on an iron lectern in the back. "I want to read that, whatever it is," Drusilla said. "That old thing, very dry. Genealogy," Mooney touted. "That's the book the headmistress was referring to. What would an orphan want with a genealogy book? Besides, as the headmistress said, it's only for our older students." They had moved on to more traditional classrooms, like the gigantic music hall with its 59 pianos, the art room, which was broad and cheery, with individual easels for all, and the drama room, which connected to an auditorium with a gilded stage and velvet curtains. There were also study rooms and a ballroom with a dozen glittering chandeliers that Mooney said were from the fin de siècle, whatever that was. "Never go into the ballroom on your own," Mooney said as they peered in. "It spins. Weaker stomachs revolt. And stay out of the museum. If the exhibits don't get you, you'll run into Headmistress Tattinger. She's always up there working on her singing stumpery exhibit. Also, if you find the door to fatalism, don't go through it. Tends to have a nasty effect on one's life outlook. Do you understand me, child?" Mooney stopped walking and glared down her nose. When Drusilla remained quiet, the nurse's brow melted in a furry line resembling Blessing Hollow's infamous pest, the cantankerous caterpillar. The insect was so large and brown that it looked like a roving piece of poo as it sat atop shrubbery snacking away. It destroyed all manner of flora, and, in the springtime, Blessing Hollow's gardeners worked in packs to decimate its numbers. "Answer me." Mooney shook Drusilla by her shoulders. "What happens if I go through the door to fatalism?" Drusilla challenged. "Will I believe everything is predetermined and therefore inevitable?" Mooney shook her harder. "Right, understood," Drusilla said. "It's off limits." This soothed Mooney. She let go of Drusilla's shoulder and relaxed her gaze, causing the caterpillar of a thing on her forehead to separate back into distinct brows. Drusilla eyed her closely. Besides the large, watery eyes, the nurse had an unfortunate amount of forehead. This feature was something she and Mooney had in common. In addition, Mooney had a nose which was bulbous and constantly wrinkled in disgust, and she wore her uniform stretched like a taut rubber band across her body. Drusilla also noticed that the hand that grasped her seemed more like a clamp than a hand. That is, it did not seem to be made up of 4 fingers and a thumb. But Drusilla could not tell for sure, as both of Nurse Mooney's hands were swathed in long white gloves. "What are you staring at?" Mooney asked. In a bid for honesty, Drusilla immediately replied, "You." There ensued a lot of shouting about impertinence and orphans and the curative powers of hellfire. When Mooney finished, she straightened her cap, even though it had not budged a millimeter. Then she turned on her heel and continued the tour. They climbed another flight of stairs. By the time they reached the 8th floor, the cloud outside began pouring rain. Streaks of lightning lit the rooms. 40 minutes into the tour, they reached the 12th flight of stairs. Loud claps of thunder rattled the window panes. Drusilla followed Mooney up the steep steps that led to the attic. Off a cramped corridor of a forgotten wing, the nurse showed her to a tiny dorm room. Like many of the classrooms they had visited, these rooms were carved out of the cliff. "Your things will be brought here by the night watchman," Mooney stated. "I have no things," Drusilla replied. Mooney's frown grew deeper. In her mind, this was exactly what was wrong with orphans. They were so needy. Not to mention, they paid nothing to the school. How could a private school survive without its students paying an exorbitant tuition bill? Mooney needed to fix her bad tooth, and she was constantly after the new headmistress for a raise. But a raise would only come if more paying students were enrolled, not freeloaders like Drusilla Gobblestone. "Fine, excellent. I shall see what we have in the lost and found. You'll need a uniform, a nightgown, and a toothbrush at the very least." The nurse left her alone in a small room which smelled faintly of lemon. This was the only thing nice about it. Otherwise, it was cold and cramped. Not having anything else to do, Drusilla sat down on her cot and thought things over. She knew medical school would be odd, but this place was turning out to be both odd and unfriendly. Initially, when she first stepped into the musty cloakroom, she had felt a rush of excitement, a magic school. She had felt a twinge deep inside, as if her heart were a compass, and it was pointing her in the direction of witchdom. She had felt for those few seconds as if she might finally have found the place where she was supposed to be. But, given all the oddities and the unfriendliness of the people she had met so far, that twinge of excitement had extinguished. Now she decided to worry and clasped at the silver locket around her neck as if it could keep her safe. She was fretting good and hard when the bell tolled noon, and Mooney reappeared to show her the way to the lunchroom. "I made you a name tag. Please affix it to your shirt." Drusilla gave it a skeptical glance before pinning it to her dress. It read, "Drusilla Gobblestone, Partsless Potions, Girl Without a House." Name tag in place, she rose to her feet. Even at the nurse's brisk pace, it took 25 minutes to reach the cafeteria. The nurse deposited her in the lunch line before stalking across the room to shout at a pale-faced girl. Drusilla was glad to be rid of her. She was also glad to be in the cafeteria. It was a normal, elongated room with a few high windows emitting some daylight. Sunlight made her feel better. Drusilla shuffled along the lunch line with a knot of apprehension. While everyone else received plates full of roast chicken and mashed potatoes, the lunchroom lady deposited something jiggly and green on her tray. She tried to protest, but the lady interrogated her. "You are partless, right? You don't want animal parts in your potions. You're a girl without a house."
Drusilla didn't understand what any of this had to do with lunch. Well, the lady held her ladle aloft and used it as a pointer. Your kind sits at the last table. Not wishing to make waves, Drusilla carried her tray quietly past 3 tables labeled Morwick, Morlock, and Morglen. Everyone turned to watch her pass. Under the gaze of numerous eyeballs, it seemed a long way to the last table. This table was signless and rickety and meant for 50 students. Currently, however, it was only occupied by 2 girls. Drusilla took a seat opposite them and picked at her food.
Coming up next time on Drusilla Gobblestone.
Remember how we all sat around the dorm room and talked about it? After Sarah disappeared, you, me, Kara, and Annabelle. The very next day, Kara was gone, and then Annabelle disappeared 2 days later. Who will be next? Thank you so much for watching my video. If you enjoyed this Dark Academia story, note that it continues. You can click on the link at the end of the video, and you have 2 options. You can watch the story only as I continue to put it out, seamlessly picking up from where this story left off, or watch the version where you are my guest aboard a great glass airship and you receive personal attention before I begin to read the story to you. The choice is up to you, and if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a moon emoji in the comments. Good night.